Good afternoon. We'll call this meeting to order. I'll ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest. I have one in front of me, 4.3, development charges, exemption request, Wasaga Beach United Church. This is from Councillor Boulanger. He is a parishioner at the Wasaga Beach United Church and will be contributing to the expansion fund and possibly participating in fundraising initiatives. If at some point throughout the meeting you find that you have a conflict, please declare it at that time. Today we have one deputation from Principal's Integrity, so we will pass it over to you.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and thank you for you making time for us to be here today. I'm Janice Atwood-Pitkovsky.
Can't hear you.
Sorry, if you could try to.
Where's the microphone? Where's the microphone? There's not one.
Yeah.
We don't normally have a microphone in here. We'll speak as loudly as we can.
Okay. Thank you for making time for us today. I am Janice Atwood-Pitkovsky, and this is my partner, Jeffrey Abrams, and we are your Integrity Commissioners at Principal's Integrity. And I would say right off the bat, it is our practice, and we appreciate the opportunity. We think it's best practice for Integrity Commissioners to attend, to provide comments with respect to recommendation reports when they come forward, and so that is why we are here today. As you have already heard members of council in our training, but I'll say it, I think, for the public, we have as our mantra our particular philosophy that really provides a framework for the work that we do, and that is the perception that a community's elected representatives are operating with integrity is the glue which sustains local democracy. We live in a time when citizens are skeptical of their elected representatives at all levels. The overarching objective in appointing an Integrity Commissioner is to ensure the existence of robust and effective policies, procedures, and mechanisms that enhance the citizens' perception that their council and local boards meet established ethical standards, and where they do not, there exists a review mechanism that serves the public interest. We think the report speaks for itself, but we wanted to make a few comments with respect to the context and some of the takeaways. First of all, as you'll see in the report, there were a number of complaints that we had to deal with. Some complaints we were able to resolve without involving them in this investigation, but there were a number of them that seemed to be arising out of the same context situation. Context situation for us really was the casino location issue. That was the backdrop. What appeared to us very early on is that there appeared to be two distinct camps. There appeared to be almost, and we actually made light of it at one point, that perhaps there should be jerseys handed out because there appeared to be two teams. I know somewhat ironically that there actually are t-shirts in the audience today. So clearly there are those who support one member of council and those who support another member of council. And we have taken a holistic report to this investigation, and we think that what has really resulted is a lot of distrust in the community, and that's what we're trying to address in this report. So the sniping of what we would characterize, I think, as sniping from the sidelines by one member's supporters against another, and vice versa, is really not productive. It really is a distraction for the community and for council from its business, and it erodes relationships and public trust. Those are some of the things we've tried to address pretty bluntly in our recommendation report. We think that members should be discouraging this kind of activity wherever possible. It is not productive to encourage one's supporters to be putting on t-shirts and sniping. We think that it's important for council and the community to recognize that reasonable people can disagree. And that a council of one term can take a position and a council of a subsequent term can have a different position. Those things are all normal parts of local government, and they're robust factors in our democracy. Of course, council members are political animals and can articulate issues and take positions. But negative comments and comments that disparage the motives or motivations of other members of council undermine public confidence generally in its local officials, and this crosses the line. In our view, this crosses the line. So as we pointed out in this report, and I won't belabor it by reading it to people, but we took the litany of complaints that were alleged, and we boiled them down really to their what we think are the core, the essence of what the complaints were, and those are set out at paragraph 42. And I don't know whether I should read those or not read those. I'm in your hands. I normally would assume everybody who's interested in participating has access to this online and has read it. So those are in paragraph 42. We really distill those down to what we think are the essence of the complaints being alleged. And then we set out in detail the process of our investigation. The process of our investigation does involve what we think is the application of procedural fairness. We certainly make sure that we understand what the complaints alleged are. We make sure that the respondents have a full and fair opportunity to respond to the allegations. We make sure we understand what that response is. So we owe that procedural fairness to the respondents, to give them every opportunity to respond. And then we make our findings, and that is our key role, is to make findings of fact and provide a recommendation to council where it's appropriate. As we note with the allegations regarding the criticism of the CAO's report as being inaccurate, we do note in the report that taken on its own, we likely would not have considered that to be substance to rise to the level of a breach of the code of conduct. But it was because taken together with all of the other comments and activities, it really undermines in the public's mind their trust in town officials. And for that reason, we felt it really can't be condoned. The findings are set out clearly from pages 105 or paragraphs 105 to 127. And again, I would expect everybody who's got this report can look at those and commend those particular paragraphs to people. And our recommended sanction in this instance is 10 days. And we felt that the 10 days is more than symbolic, because this type of activity ought to be recognized as inappropriate and as undermining the town and the public interest. But it's not intended to be overly, penalizing. It's meant to send a message. This is not appropriate behavior, and it shouldn't be condoned. But we expect that those who've been engaging in this can take a step back and hopefully hit the reset button. Because it's still early in the term of council, and hopefully there's an opportunity to move away from this type of activity, which is, I imagine, quite disruptive in this town. I'm not sure there's much else I would say. We really would hope that those who have supported one or other members of council will be circumspect in viewing the outcome and understand that perhaps there are more positive ways to engage.
Okay. Thank you very much. I would tend to agree with you that the combative nature between two teams is not beneficial for our community, so my hope is that following... We're having a meeting, and if you're going to be disruptive, I would ask that you leave, please.
Yeah, of course.
So as I was saying, the creation of that is not beneficial, so I agree. Hopefully following today, we can sit the refresh button and move forward. I will ask council members if they have any questions of Janice and Jeffrey. Councillor Boulanger.
Thank you, Chair. I have just a few comments. And first of all, I want to say I respect both the position and the words principle integrity. And, it's a challenging job. I do want to point out that over my 3.5 years on council, I've observed many statements from members of council that probably warranted complaint and sanction, and never has a sanction been levied. And when you indicate the environment that exists now, I would suggest to you, and I think the audience conferred, that that existed for 4 years in the last term of council as well.
I'm going to ask that you not clap, you not interrupt. This is a meeting of council, and we need to be respectful. Thank you.
I would like to point out one important thing. This isn't about members of our community supporting one member of council or another. This is about a member of council supporting members of our local business and community, and not the other way around. I accept the findings of the IC, and I will ensure that I choose my words much more carefully going forward for a more positive light. Going forward, I will continue to represent both those in our business community and among our residents, both with the concerns and recommendations that are brought forth to me to the best of my ability. And finally, this is for council, if council will ultimately decide the sanction that will be placed on me, and whatever that will be, I will respectfully request that council give consideration to providing that money to the Wasaga Beach Ministerial Food Bank because the need in our community is growing daily, and the cost of food has increased substantially over the last year. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from other members of council? Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Some of our concerned citizens have expressed disapproval of your decision in this matter and have alleged that the Integrity Commissioner is biased, uninformed, cherry-picking parts of the code and other complaints. My question would be, are you both lawyers in Ontario?
Yes, we're not practicing as lawyers, correct?
But you are
lawyers, yes.
Called in 1987.
And as lawyers, are you both members of the Law Society of Ontario?
Yes.
Okay, as members of the Law Society of Ontario, I understand you have a high threshold to maintain, including a professional duty to act without bias or prejudice, to act with integrity, honor, and to demonstrate ethical behavior. These duties are set out in the rules of professional conduct by the Society. I don't know if you wish to comment on that or not, your threshold, but I think it's important to establish that it's a very serious matter for a lawyer to do what is alleged in some of these comments. So if you wish to comment, that would be fine.
Well, we haven't heard the comments directly. It would be difficult to respond directly to them. We should point out that while lawyers and while we abide by those standards, we're here today as integrity commissioners and not providing legal services to the town.
Okay, thank you. And one follow-up question. Are you at liberty, or can you tell us how much it has cost the taxpayers of Wasaga Beach to investigate and report on the multiple breaches to the code of conduct that have been reported?
We can. On the matter before council today and the various strands, we have spent about 50 hours. So that's about $11,000.
About $11,000 investigating this. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Belanger?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just for members of the audience and residents, the comments that came forward that you suggested, I do not feel that took place in any way, that you were biased in any way. I actually welcome to a certain extent that that there is a little more consequence to and accountability, because previously I felt that there had not been. So.
Anyone else? Okay, we have a motion. It's moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Watson. The council received this report for information, and that it be posted on the Town of Wasaga Beach website for public access. And further, that having been found to have breached the code of conduct for members of the council of the Town of Wasaga Beach, the remuneration paid by the town to Councillor Belanger be suspended for a period of 10 days, commencing with his next pay period. Final comments or questions? Just looking for some clarification if Councillor Belanger should be voting on this or not.
Thank you. That was good.
So we'll call for the vote. Deputy Mayor Bright?
In favor.
Councillor Foster?
In favor.
Councillor Kinney?
In favor.
Councillor Watson?
In favor.
Councillor Wells?
In favor.
Mayor Byfolchi?
In favor?
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed. The motion is carried.
Boo! You guys did it for 4 bloody years. I'm a former counselor
Mrs. Smith,
and I know
I'm going to
what
ask
you
that
did.
you need to leave.
They have not even.
So I'm going to thank our presenters for being here
anybody else.
today, and we're going to take a quick recess.
And
Thank
I'm
you.
telling you.
Okay, thank you. So next on our agenda is an item dealing with a side-by-side utility vehicle. I saw Giuliano here. Oh, there he is in the back row. So if there's any questions on that, we can ask him. We have a motion moved by Councillor Watson, seconded by Councillor Boulanger, that the committee of the... Oh, sorry, Giuliano. Do you want to speak? That the committee of the whole recommend to council that that the purchase for a new side-by-side utility vehicle, request for proposal RFP number FL 2019-02, be awarded to Sturgeon Point Marina Limited in the amount of $27,160, excluding HST.
Thank you. We'll call for the vote. Councillor Boulanger?
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Bray?
In favor?
Councillor Foster?
In favor.
Councillor Kinney?
In favor.
Councillor Watson?
Favor?
Councillor Wells?
In favor.
Mayor Byfolchi?
In favor?
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed. The motion is carried.
Next is the 2018 fourth quarter financial report. Unfortunately, Jocelyn had to leave. So if there's any questions, our CAO will attempt to answer them, and if not, we will have to get back to you. The motion is moved by Councillor Kinney, seconded by Councillor Wells, that Committee of the Whole of Council recommends to Council that it receive the 2018 fourth quarter financial report for information. Questions or comments? Councillor Foster?
It's just a comment, Your Worship. Because this is a big chunk of information and it's going to go to council, perhaps at that time we could ask the treasurer to give us the Coles Notes version, because I would like, some highlights hit upon, or yeah.
I see heads bobbing, so, okay. Any other questions at this time? Okay.
We'll call for the vote. Councillor Boulanger?
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Bray?
In favor?
Councillor Foster?
In favor.
Councillor Kinney?
In favor.
Councillor Watson?
In favor?
Councillor Wells?
In favor.
Mayor Byfolchi? In favor? The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed. The motion is carried.
So the next one, Councillor Boulanger has declared a conflict, so he's pulled away from the table. It's moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Kinney. The Committee of the Whole of Council recommend to Council that it authorize the Treasurer to exempt the Wasaga Beach United Church from the payment of development charges for the proposed addition to the building located at 380 Zoo Park Road in Wasaga Beach. Questions? Councillor Foster?
Comment again, Your Worship. I'll be supportive of this, absolutely, but it's pointed out somewhere that our bylaw doesn't exempt places of worship from the DCs, and I'd like to suggest that that be looked at by bylaw department as a possible change going forward.
I think the responsible department for the development charges bylaw is finance,
yeah.
but I can certainly ask
somebody.
Yeah.
I don't care, but I think
So,
it's
no, it'll
I
be
think
the
it,
finance
the
department.
discussion is clear that it's probably worth it.
Okay, so we will pass it on to the appropriate staff member and it can come forward at a later time. Any other questions, comments?
Okay, we'll call for the vote. Deputy Mayor Bray?
In favor?
Councillor Foster?
In favor.
Councillor Kinney?
In favor.
Councillor Watson?
In favor?
Councillor Wells?
In favor.
Mayor Byfolchi? In favor. The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed. The motion is carried.
And Municipal Grant Program, moved by Councillor Watson, seconded by Councillor Wells, that Committee of the Whole of Council recommend to Council that it approve the grants listed in Appendix A to this report under Annual Municipal Grants Program. Further, that Council now indicate that the 2019 grant program is now closed. Councillor Boulanger?
Thank you, Chair. At one time during our last term, we had talked about changing the process related to the grants, and that council would have an open discussion prior to us assessing an amount. So in the particular grants that are doing today, I met with the treasurer and she gave me the amount of monies that were left in the budget, and indicated that there were 2 schools that had yet not made a request that do every year a small amount. So I left open $300, but I only allocated up to what was left in the budget, where many members of council decided to go over budget. As there was no discussion, I had no idea that that was even an option, because I was adhering to the budget that we had set. So I would suggest that we really should review this process, and grants should somehow be discussed prior to just handing them out and saying, assign an amount.
Deputy Mayor Bray?
Thank you. Just further to you, would you change your amount if you knew that the Worsley Elementary grant was a request after they qualified for a provincial and now a
Yeah,
national
well, certainly
championship?
I support that to a higher degree than what I would have allocated, because I was adhering to a budget.
Because I wonder if we could maybe open that up and talk about the amount. I know that I voted to support the amount that would cover their entry fee into the competition, but I think it's really quite an honor that a band at an elementary level, it's not their first time competing, but it's certainly their first time they've ever won, and they've won locally and provincially, and I think it's something as a community we really should rally around and try to support. They're looking for about $15,000 to send these kids to Ottawa, so that was kind of where my number came from, and I just wondered if you, in light of what you've seen, what we've all voted, if you were willing to change your vote, then we can maybe increase that amount today.
Well, if that's appropriate, then certainly I would reconsider for sure.
Okay, so I've got Councillor Watson, Councillor Wells, and Councillor Foster.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I too was a little confused how much money we could go, and I think I tempered mine a little bit because it appeared we were over budget also, but I did put the same amount in of $3,500, which would have...
I'm sorry, say that again?
Same thing as Deputy Mayor Bray, the entrance fee is what I had put in also at $3,500 on there. And I have a very long history with the band and getting up and started, but they won 2 gold medals recently, Collingwood Mill and Sound, and I didn't know that these were the highest accolades that you can win in the country, actually. I had no idea about that, and I was totally impressed with that. That was on the Barrie News. And they're also the only band in Simcoe County that's going to this competition in Ottawa. So, all the good things that come with playing music in a school and the cutbacks and that. So, I would certainly consider, if we're allowed to, open this up, because they're certainly deserving of that.
So while I go around the table with other people's comments, I'm going to look to our CAO. I know we have a policy, so if you can make sure that if we choose to change this, we're somehow not going against our own policy, because there is a ranking that happens and things, so if you can make sure of that.
Yes. Thank
We're
you,
allowed
Worship.
to change it on the fly now.
The Committee of the Whole is considering a recommendation from staff, so committee makes a recommendation to council, so committee is able to vary that recommendation through that process. The recommendation will go to council for its meeting on April 30th. I don't have the policy in front of me, so based on whatever committee recommends today, I could have that information for council for the 30th and go from there. I do know, just anecdotally, that the grants budget has gone over budget in past years due to requests that have come in during the year. So I don't think going over budget is a huge issue in that sense. But with respect to the policy specifics, I'll have that review ready for the 30th.
Who did I say next? Councillor Wells?
Okay, thank you, Worship. I'm one of the ones that made the initial recommendation to go with the initial request from the school, which was for the $5,000. I did that because I realized this was a unique circumstance that occurred after our grants program had actually closed. There was absolutely no way the school could have requested this grant within the time period of the grants program, because it was done and over with. So I looked at this as a unique opportunity, a unique grant from council to support our local school children. And I was not looking at it from the point of view of, was it coming from the grant budget, or was it coming from our special initiatives budget, or was it coming from our special operations budget. I didn't give any consideration to where it came from. I gave consideration only to what I believe to be something that this council should, with all enthusiasm, be supporting. We have 38 young people who are winners of, as Councillor Watson said, an incredible level of award. And they asked to have $5,000 contributed from the town to support them. They're representing our town as well as their school in a national competition in Ottawa. $5,000 request, as Deputy Mayor Bray has indicated. They're estimating the total cost to be $15,000. I hope they can do it for that. After many years in the education system and chartering school buses to go to Ottawa or Montreal or Quebec City or wherever, my guess is, I stand to be corrected, but my guess is their bus alone will cost them close to $5,000. Because they'll need a coach, a highway coach, they'll need it for 2 days, and a driver on duty full time to move them to and from the events. They need a highway coach because A, it's a long drive to Ottawa, and they might need a washroom break on the way. I know I would. And secondly, they need something that they can put all their equipment in. And somebody said to me, well, they could take a school bus. Well, if anybody's ever ridden a school bus for 5 hours, I give them credit. But there's nowhere for them to put all the equipment. They have to carry all the band equipment with them as well. Once they get there, they have accommodations to pay probably 2 by 2, so 19 rooms to pay for 2 nights in Ottawa. I'm not sure what that'll add up to, but I can guess. So when I look at the request of $5,000, when I looked at it, to be quite blunt, I didn't care where we were going to find the money from. I just put it down as this was brand new. This was something they could not have applied for before. And it was a unique circumstance, and that we deserve to give them or they deserve to have us give them the support to go forward. So I continue to believe that this council should be giving them the request of $5,000. That leaves them $10,000 they have to raise on their own. That's a substantial amount they have to raise, and so I'm hoping that this council will consider going to their full amount of their request.
And the
Thank
CEO
you.
is just working on
Thank you.
the motion. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Worship. A couple points. First, to Councillor Wells. Those kids doing 5 hours on a bus, they're kids. They're not like you and I that heard a lot more.
You haven't traveled with kids lately.
Notwithstanding that, Your Worship, you'll note that I didn't apply to any of these. I was kind of incommunicado last week and did not get the spreadsheet prior to my departure, so I apologize for that, but I am truly in support of that, specifically to Councillor Wells. And when we talk about budgeting, when we look at something like the grant budget, if it goes over, it's in the realm of hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars. If we look at public works, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I mean, to be able to find $1,000 here or there on a budget, and to leave us some flexibility for later in the year, there's always been a little bit of room there, like you said, whether it's from the special incentive program or that. So I am supportive of Councillor Wells' suggestion to increase the board's limit.
Okay, Councillor Kinney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'm fully in support of what Councillor Watson, Wells, sorry, Watson's over there, but you also said too.
I spoke to.
Yeah, you spoke to. Especially in regards to helping our community and the thought process of the $5,000. One question, I realize a grant program is a grant program, but I'm just wondering whether or not a grant program could run the calendar and not have an end date. We still put in I don't know, $50,000 in it, and then we disperse it, and then that way I see it being a lot more flexible in the community addressing it. I might be pie in the sky notion on that, but I just throw that out too.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? The clerks over here have confirmed that if we change the amount here, it says in here that nothing in this policy prohibits council from considering financial assistance or in-kind support outside of the scope of the policy. So we're good that way. I believe the CAO was just amending this, and it was moved by Councillor Watson, seconded by Councillor Wells. If it would be considered a friendly amendment to change it, that the donation would be $5,000. Oh, we've got thumbs up at the end of the table. So can I read that? Thank you. So it is is now moved by Councillor Watson, seconded by Councillor Wells, that Committee of the Whole of Council recommend to Council that it approve the grants listed in Appendix A to this report under Annual Municipal Grants Program as amended, so that Worsley Elementary School would receive a grant of $5,000. Further, that Council now indicate that the 2019 grant program is now closed. Okay.
We'll call for the vote. Councillor Belanger?
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Bray?
In favor?
Councillor Foster?
In favor.
Councillor Kinney?
In favor?
Councillor Watson?
In favor.
Councillor Wells?
In favor.
Mayor Byfolchi?
In favor?
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed. The motion is carried.
Okay. All right, thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.
Oh, sorry.
Is it
Your Worship, can I just ask a question about that motion?
about this motion? Okay.
Yeah. Not to try to belabor the issue at all, but, and I supported it, the grant program officially be closed. But I guess I'm after I heard it read, I didn't have time to say anything before the vote was taken. I did get just that little nagging feeling that if Birchview tomorrow was to win some substantial opportunity and be looking for support, have we now said there's no way we can support them? I hope not.
No, that's not what we're saying.
Okay, but I want to
Yeah.
hope that that's not what we said.
Right.
Okay,
No,
thank you.
because the clerk read out
Yeah.
a bit of
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so now we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, everybody.